Objection!
Did you know? Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney was originally going to be a detective game about a private eye. The first case would open with him being arrested after the police find a body at his client's office. He'd then take up his own defense after being assigned a useless lawyer. Series creator Shu Takumi decided to drop the detective theme after realizing his concept had little to do with actual detective work. He wanted players to enjoy finding contradictions and taking them apart, and felt that the courtroom would be a better setting for the game. Early in production, the development team came up with a number of potential titles for the game. This included Naruhodo-kun Screaming Trials, Boogie Woogie Innocence, and The Beautiful Verdict. One team member proposed to call the game Let's Raise Hamsters and that it should star a hamster protagonist, but in the end, the team settled on Gyakuten Saiban, meaning Turnabout Trial. Development on the game was handled by a 7-person team. At the time, Capcom was trying to train its younger staff by letting them develop new games with small teams and budgets. The game came close to being cancelled after 2 employees left the company. Luckily, the team was able to get a Resident Evil developer to help them part-time. Initially, the team was going to develop Ace Attorney for the Game Boy Color. However, after being given a preview of the then unreleased Game Boy Advance, they were so impressed that they decided to produce it for the new hardware instead. The game took 10 months to develop and was released in October 2001, which was 6 months after the Game Boy Advance's launch. Takumi decided that the first case of Ace Attorney should reveal the murderer from the start, so that players could focus on the thrill and excitement of nailing the culprit. This was inspired by shows like Columbo, which focused on how the protagonist catches the villain rather than the mystery of who committed the crime. In Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, there are unused character sprites in the game's data. One of them shows Phoenix Wright with hearts for eyes. This animation was supposedly intended to show Wright's reaction to seeing April May for the first time, but the scene was removed. In the final game, Phoenix first meets her at the Gatewater Hotel. Since this wasn't in the courtroom, there would be no need for the sprite. After development on the first game was completed, Takumi took a vacation. When he returned, he was immediately told that he needed to write the entire script for the sequel before Capcom started production. He had to write 5 episodes in 3.5 months. Takumi thought that this request was completely insane, as not only would this new script be 1 episode longer than the first game, but last time each episode took over a month to write. However, he managed to hit the deadline, writing 1,500 pages of dialogue in 3.5 months. Though Takumi wrote 5 episodes, only 4 made it into the final game due to a lack of cartridge space. What would have been Justice for All's 4th episode was later incorporated into Trials and Tribulations as Recipe for Turnabout. One background from the case actually references the game it originally came from. In Vitamin Square, you can see a single white dove among the pigeons. This was supposed to make players wonder if it had escaped from Max Galactica, the magician from Justice for All. Although it's since become a series tradition to introduce a new prosecutor in every game, Justice for All was originally supposed to feature Edgeworth as the main prosecutor again. According to Takumi, the stories for that title as I originally wrote them all featured Edgeworth as the prosecutor. However, during development of the second game, the first one was released and it became clear that Edgeworth was an extremely popular character. This made me wonder if, given that Edgeworth was supposed to be such a brilliant prosecutor, it wouldn't be rather sad to have him lose case after case to Phoenix. This prompted me to create a new rival prosecutor character in the form of Franziska von Karma. Of course, this meant that I had to rewrite most of the dialogue in the game completely. Edgeworth's popularity also led him to being the protagonist of Ace Attorney Investigations. Originally, the developers wanted to make Emma Skye the main character, but decided to go with the fan favorite. Trials and Tribulations is 2.3 times bigger than the original Game Boy Advance version of Ace Attorney. By that point, the team had figured out various tricks to allow them to store more information on the cartridge. Takumi said that the limitations imposed by the cartridge's small memory actually helped the team to be more creative. When working on the first 2 games, characters would sometimes appear in multiple cases in order to reduce the amount of data used. Takumi realized that having characters come back could affect the story in interesting ways, inspiring him to create the reoccurring villain Dahlia Hawthorne. In the original Japanese version of the game, Prosecutor Godo is voiced by Hideki Kamiya, the director behind Okami and Bayonetta. According to Takumi, Kamiya worked at a nearby desk and would pester him about doing one of the voices. Originally, Godo was going to drink bourbon and smoke. The team worried that this might be a bad influence on children, so they made him drink coffee instead. When Capcom decided to make a 4th game in the series, Takumi was initially reluctant and felt that the Phoenix Wright trilogy had reached a natural conclusion confusion. He decided it'd be best to make the fourth game focus on a new character, especially since new players would be able to use it as an entry point to the series. Capcom agreed to this, but on the condition that Phoenix Wright would still appear in the game. Takumi initially found it difficult to work Phoenix into the story, as he didn't want him to upstage the new protagonist. Apollo Justice's bracelet was originally just a meaningless decoration. However, it looked like it might be important, so the development team eventually linked it to his perceive ability. Takumi avoided putting obvious Japanese elements into the first game, as he knew that it might end up being localized for foreign audiences. However, Capcom didn't start localizing the series until much later, when the first 3 games were ported to the Nintendo DS. Because there were no plans for localization at the time, Takumi included many references to Japanese culture in the sequels. This caused problems when the English localization team had to translate later installments, as the translation for the first game moved the setting to Los Angeles. Localizer Janet Sue said that she thought of the setting as an alternate universe where anti-Japanese laws were never enacted, so immigrants were able to thrive in the USA. This backstory is referenced in the second case of Dual Destinies, when Ninetales Vale is described as the product of Japanese immigration. Don't forget to subscribe to DidYouKnowGaming for more facts and trivia. Make sure you also check out DidYouKnowGaming.com, and if you like this video, check out some more videos. Hey, I'm Zurachi. If you want to see another Ace Attorney video, you should check out my Objection Medley, which is a cover of all the Objection themes complete with rockin' guitars. If you enjoy video game covers and other fun-filled content, consider subscribing to my channel. I hope to see you soon.